show that the world is learning fast, that we must use all of our human resources, that nothing prevents a woman from aspiring to that position in the United States, so that immediately it sends an important signal to the girl child in rural. You'll be surprised where this election is being watched in some far-flung lands across the world, and young women are watching and saying, oh my God, this woman is going to be the president of this powerful country. I shall study. So female education, just think of girl child education. We have the best symbol for it now. In terms of women in business, in terms of women in agriculture, just name it. It's an unleashing of the talent of women globally, and that matters to me.
But comparing what's happening now with what's already happened, some other countries around the world have already gone ahead of the United States to elect female presidents and female leaders. It's taken America more than 240 years. Why do you think it took so long to finally, recognize that a woman could probably lead the free world?
I think that even Americans are pretty embarrassed that it came too late to the game. But you would also, one thing is, as progressive and forward-looking as America is, there are certain aspects where it's a bit very quaint in the way that it looks at things. And on this matter of political dynamism, of gender equality and parity in the political life, it came too late into it. But what has happened is that you would see that America did make some measure of progress at the local level. Women began to be counselors. Women became members of houses of assembly in their respective states. Women were in the executive. We have had governors that are women for so many decades now across the both parties. But the presidential one was always an issue. But finally, we're there.
I guess Chamberlain has a follow-up to this, because this involves being a woman, right?
No, I'm just wondering, because hereafter, when the elections are called, they'll have to deal with moving forward. Either they directly talk about how they need to heal, or is the line blurred when they say, look, it's a democracy. People have a right to their opinion. But where do you draw the line between an opinion which you think, wait a minute, could you actually have this kind of opinion? And over 40% of Americans have that.
I know. You see, it's going to be tough for America. You see, what has been revealed about their society through this particular election is something that's troubling. But one thing that is very clear is the citizens are going to ask themselves, are we prepared to have a gridlock that is worse than what President Obama has had? Being the inability to have persuaded the people on the other side of the aisle to buy into the agenda that was needed in order to keep America competitive and to be as influential as it always was. They're going to have to face that question. The truth is, no country is waiting for the other. Americans would have to ask themselves, are we prepared to accept that what has just happened to us is an indication that we might actually be at that threshold of the decline of our civilization? Is that what we want? So there are some tough questions that they're going to have to ask. And in the process of asking that question, there would be an emergence of some core group that would probably say, let's figure a way to build back the bridges that have been broken. And those bridges would start even at the level of the two parties The two parties, I mean, it's worse with the Republican Party, which hardly recognizes itself anymore. But even the Democrats are going to have that conversation. And then the entire country would need to have that conversation. What serves them well, which is different from our own society, is that institutions that have been built over time would manage to stay as neutral, as non-partisan as possible. But look at what even happened to the FBI. It has a whole institutional crisis that it's going to have to manage after the elections. But one thing is clear, that America has shown to the world that don't ever take anything for granted. Don't even take the strongest democracy for granted. It can unravel. But thank God that they have managed to just keep it together. The part that I worry about is the very strong division and resentment, and the fact that people are going to wake up the next day and it would be too obvious that they were so divided along ethnic lines. And so suddenly the Mexican American is going to look across the fence, say the white American, and say, you probably voted for Trump, so you actually thought that the only thing I represent is everything ugly, So those tensions are going to be there, and how to manage them.
Do you think that if these tensions are not managed and if they're not addressed, do you think America could, revert to those dark days of racism and, more gender-based and, when you had a lot of rhetoric about violence and so on? Do you think America could revert to those days again?
Well, we saw very ugly side of America in recent times that led to Black Lives Matter, but those things were not unusual. That's the thing I always said to people, that these things existed. It's just that it's more magnified. So something happens even in our own hinterland of a local government anywhere in Nigeria or anywhere in France, and instantly the rest of the world knows. So because of that, we're seeing racism that people were facing every day in America. Those kinds of brutalities that we saw with the police, they do happen. They happen in precincts within America. And so to your exact question as to whether this election would roll them back so badly that we would now see a massive escalation, I doubt that it would get to that point. What I feel is that the after effect of saying that the world was actually disappointed in us, we got to clean up our acts, so we don't want African countries to sort of validate any bad behavior by pointing at America, because you know what, they can afford some of the things that happened there. We cannot afford them. We just simply don't have the institutional resilience to be able to handle some of the excesses that America had to face in this particular election.
I dare say that I have a feeling you're not going to let anything come in between your celebrations when the elections are called.
Will you stay till the end of the night?
No, I'm going to have to. I have to give a speech tomorrow. So, but I'm going to be awake on my bed, waiting for that time when I say yes, it happened. Wouldn't you be very glad?
I'd rather be neutral on this.
Yeah.
I knew she wouldn't say.
She's a quintessential journalist. I love her for that. That's very good.
Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amarachi. Thank you, Chamberlain.
Back to you now.